Hey guys, today I'll be reviewing a bug that is affecting openSUSE, Tumbleweed and Leap distributions after a recent update to the latest version. For Tumbleweed, it's to the latest snapshot. And this, as you can see, I have a screenshot of the Bugzilla report on this bug. And so a brief overview of this bug would be that after you've done updating your system, the system would require a reboot since it's quite a large update, quite a major update. And so after you have done rebooting your system, you'll see the following lines stating that a file, specifically MokManager.efi file, is not found in the system, and thus preventing you from booting into or even get past grub. So what is this bug about? Technically speaking, this bug only affects UEFI system with SecureBoot enabled. And why do I say this? Now, let's have a look here. If you're running an UEFI system with SecureBoot enabled, after the firmware has done its thing, it proceeds to load the bootloader, and the bootloader will have different stages. So the first stage being loading the shim file. The second stage would be grub in a normal boot process. However, in our case, the EFI bootloader doesn't load grub. Instead, it loads MokManager.efi, and we don't have that file in our boot directory. So since EFI cannot find that particular file, it interrupts the boot process and just preventing the system from advancing from that stage onwards. However, in BIOS, in a system running legacy BIOS or even emulated legacy BIOS with CSM, or even a system with UEFI enabled but SecureBoot is not enabled, you should not experience this issue, as MokManager.efi is a file that is related to SecureBoot, as suggested from its name, Mok, which stands for machine owner key. And so this file is basically a key management system for SecureBoot. So if you have SecureBoot disabled, and even though you're on a UEFI system, you should be able to just boot into the system just fine. So how do we fix, or rather work around this bug? Well, it's quite easy, considering that it's just a matter of copying a file from one directory to another. So just go ahead and launch your terminal. As we cannot boot into our system, so we'll need either a live USB, or if you're on a dual boot config system, then you can go ahead and boot into Windows or whatever your second operating system is, and just follow this process, which I'll be showing here. So first, just list your disk and partitions. Type in sudo fdisk list, and this command will list out all the partitions that you have on your system. In my case, since mine is a dual boot config system, so I have my second OS is Windows, so I'll have two EFI partitions. With the one there's 100 megabytes in size being the Windows EFI partition, so we will not be touching that. Instead, we'll go on to the second EFI partition, which is 500 megabytes in size, and this is the Linux partition. So after you have identified your Linux EFI partition, which is the affected partition, you can just go ahead and mount it to a mount point. So in my case, I'll just sudo mount /dev/sda4 and specify a mount point, which is /mount. So after you have done this, you can just cd into mount, and when you list it, you should see that there's an EFI folder. So just cd into the EFI folder, and you'll see two subdirectories, which is boot and openSUSE respectively. So if you cd into boot, you should see that there are only two files. In my case, since I fixed the issue, I would have MokManager.efi already in there, but in your case, you may not have MokManager.efi in your boot subdirectory. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cd into openSUSE /mount/efi/openSUSE and just grab the MokManager.efi file from there and copy it into /efi/boot. So this can be done with a simple command of cp MokManager.efi, and we'll specify our destination, which will be /mount/efi and /boot. So after you have done this, you can just go ahead and unmount your EFI partition with umount. So just sudo umount your mount point, which in my case is /mount, and when you cd again to /mount, there should be nothing in that folder. So you have successfully unmounted your EFI partition, and this process is basically the same for Windows as well, or other OSs. So just go ahead, find your EFI partition, go into openSUSE, the subdirectory openSUSE, just copy the MokManager.efi file from there into your boot subdirectory, and that should do the trick. In Windows, you can do the same thing with launching command prompt with administrative privileges, and just use this part. So that's all. I hope this helps.